Welcome to ClubhouseNews.com. You are tuned in to Clubhouse News Weekend for the week ending Saturday, May 9th. I'm Haley Ann.
And I'm Devin. It was Victory in Europe Day on May 8th, celebrating the defeat of the Axis powers and Nazi Germany in World War II. When Nazi leader Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany, he began taking over nearby countries like Czechoslovakia. He triggered the start of World War II on September 1st, 1939, when German forces invaded Poland, causing the allied nations of Britain and France to team up against Germany. Hitler then joined Team Evil along with Italy and Japan to form the Axis powers. They fought against allies such as countries like USA and Soviet Russia. A major turning point in the war came on June 6, 1944, when the Allies began the largest amphibious invasion ever. No, that doesn't mean they came in on Battletoads. They launched a land and sea attack on German-occupied Western Europe, known as D-Day. Epic fights like the Battle of Normandy eventually led to the liberation of France from Nazi control. On May 8, 1945, the Allies accepted Nazi Germany's surrender. Now, countries celebrate Victory in Europe Day on May 8th every year with parades and fierce Axis and Allies board game tournaments.
Your mission, sink the enemy's fleet.
Battleship sunk. Battleship sunk.
Yeah! If the Allies hadn't won World War II, United Kingdom voters wouldn't have been able to re-elect Prime Minister David Cameron last week. UK elections are different than the USA, where the president is not determined by the number of Democratic or Republican lawmakers in Congress. Speaking of Congress, it's divided into two halves: the 435-member House of Representatives, where states with big populations get more representatives, and the 100-member Senate, with 2 reps per state. Britain's parliament is also split up into a lower house and upper house. The lower House of Commons has 650 elected members, but the upper House of Lords has about 780 appointed members. It's then split into the Lords of Spiritual for Church of England officials and the Lords Temporal, where mere mortals are appointed by royalty or the Prime Minister. If you've ever seen a movie scene where British lawmakers are shouting at each other, that's not too far from the truth, since the Prime Minister has to survive a weekly yelling match known as Prime Minister's Questions.
Order, I say to the Children's Minister, try to calm down and behave like an adult.
This year, the 2 major contenders up for election were the current PM David Cameron of the Conservative Party and Labour Party leader Edward Miliband. Miliband is hardcore since he once overthrew his older brother to become Labour leader. Miliband really is the scar of European politics. Unfortunately for him, the Labour Party didn't get as many votes as Cameron's Conservative Party.
The gates are now opening of Downing Street, so I suspect we could see the new Prime Minister, David Cameron.
Natural disasters struck again this week as international rescue efforts continued for victims of the Nepal quake, and wild storms swept through the USA. On April 25th, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Nepal claimed over 7,500 lives and injured more than 14,500 people. When one of the 17 tectonic plates that make up the Earth's crust shifts, the plate boundaries release pressure that may cause earthquakes and volcanoes. The intensity of a quake is measured on a Richter magnitude scale, named after the seismologist Charles Francis Richter, an environmental scientist who specialized in earthquakes and related phenomena like tsunamis, where massive waves are triggered by quakes. Tiny quakes are related to 2.0 and under, where the most destructive are 9.0 plus. One of the lucky survivors in the Nepal quake was a 101-year-old man rescued from the rubble of his home. Lucky for him, he was asleep through the whole thing. Meanwhile, in the USA, tornadoes, floods, and heavy rains caused major damage. Oklahoma had to declare a state of emergency, and Nebraska, Texas, and Kansas were also swept up in chaotic weather. It got so bad that Dorothy was clicking her ruby slippers together trying to get away from Kansas and back to Oz.
Word to your mother. Mother's Day honored moms around the world on May 10th, and according to the Save the Children Fund, Norway is the world's best place to be a mom. The USA came in 33rd place, I'm sure there's quite a few American soccer moms who'd love to show Norwegians what they think of that. The modern American holiday of Mother's Day was first celebrated in 1908, thanks to activist Anna Jarvis. She began campaigning for the holiday back in 1905, after her own mother, Anne Reeves Jarvis, died. By the early 1920s, Hallmark and other companies started cranking out Mother's Day cards and racking in the cash, and the rest is history. As for how Norway earned their #1 ranking, Save the Children judges its contestants on qualities like motherly health, education, income levels, and the status of women.